Percents and fractional percents. There are two methods of finding the fractional percent of numbers. We have a problem on the board that shows a fractional percent, 12 and 1/2%. We want to find 12 and 1/2% of 48. It's important for you to realize that the word of used in this context means to multiply. So we'll make sure when we get to that part of the problem we're going to multiply. First though, we have to do something with this 12.5%. The first thing we're going to try to do is change this to a fractional percent. 12 and 1/2% can be rewritten by changing it to an improper fraction and dividing it by 100. So I know 12 and 1/2 is equal to the improper fraction 25 halves, and I'll divide it by 100. We'll put the 100 in the form 100 over 1 so that we can invert and multiply. My next step will be 25 halves times, when we invert and multiply, 1 over 100. That way we have 25 halves times 1 over 100, and this will give us the fractional form of the number 12 and 1/2%. There's some reducing to be done. Both of these numbers can be divided by 25. If I divide this by 25, I get 1. If I divide 100 by 25, I get 4. When I do the multiplication, I have 1 over 8. So this problem could be rewritten as 1/8 of 48. And of course, we're going to remember of did not change its nature in the problem. It still means multiply. So this part of the problem would mean to take 1/8 times 48. I don't want to try and deal with a fraction and a whole number, so I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. I can do some reducing by dividing by 8. And when I multiply, I get 1 times 6 is 6, over 1 times 1 is 1, which is 6. So 12.5% of 48 is the same as 1/8 of 48, which is 6. We're going to take another look at the problem 12.5% of 48. This time we'll look at it by changing 12.5% to a decimal. We're going to remember that the word of means to multiply as it did in the previous problem. If we have 12.5%, we want to change that to a decimal. The way we'll begin that is by rewriting 12.5% as 12.5%. You've worked enough with decimals now that you know how to change this to a decimal. You need to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So 12.5% has the decimal value of 0.125. This problem then becomes exactly the same as the problem at 1.25 of 48. And that would mean, of course, because of the word of, 0.125 times 48. So we'll go ahead and do the multiplication, writing 0.125 times 48, always being careful to line up your columns. I'm going to do the multiplication starting from the right. 8 times 5 is 40, so we'll write the 0 and carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. When I move over to the tens column, I don't want these to be in the way. 4 times 5 is 20. We'll carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. We'll carry the 1. And 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. When I add my columns, I know the answer is certainly not 6,000. My estimation skills would tell me that that's much too big an answer, and I need to remember to count the decimal places. I notice that following the decimal in the original problem, there are 1, 2, 3 places. Since I know that, starting from the right, I need to move 1, 2, 3 places into the left and put my decimal point there. This has a value then of 6. And we know 12.5% of 48 then is 6, as we expected from our previous problem. Let's take a look at another problem that's similar to the problem we just did. We want to find 6% of 40. We're going to remember that the word of means multiplication. We have two methods now that we can do this. We can change 6% to a fraction or a decimal. Let's take a look at both methods. For the first method, we're going to change 6% to a fraction. That means we're going to take the number 6 and divide it by 100. If we're going to do a division problem, we want to change these both to improper fractions, so we'll have 6 over 1 divided by 100 over 1. And as you'll remember, we want to invert and multiply. So we have 6 over 1 times 1 over 100. I know that I can easily cancel and make this problem a bit simpler because 2 goes into both 6 and 100. If I divide 2 into 6, I get 3. If I divide 2 into 100, I get 50. 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 50 is 50. So this problem is an equivalent problem to 3/50ths of 40, or 3/50ths times 40. Since I'm multiplying with a fraction, I'll want to change 40 to an improper fraction to make my process easier. I'll divide 40 by 1. Now I can see that the 50 and the 40 are both reducible by a factor of 10. If I divide 50 by 10, I get 5. If I divide 40 by 10, I get 4. When I multiply, I get 3 times 4, which is 12, over 5 times 1, which is 5. And that problem reduces to 2 and 2/5. So 6% of 40 is the same as 3/50ths of 40, which gives us 2 and 2/5. The second way to do this problem is to do it by changing the percent to a decimal. 6% is equal to 0.06. So I'm looking for 0.06 of 40, or 0.06 times 40. When I do this multiplication problem, I'll do 0.06 times 40. 0 times 6 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0 as well. 4 times 6 is 24, and I'll carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 24. When I add these together, I get 240. Checking the decimal, I see that I have 2 places following the decimal point. So in my answer, starting from the right, I need to count 2 places in. And my answer is 2.4. So another way to do this problem shows 6% of 40 is 2.4. You can choose the method which works best for you.
Say you are interested in purchasing this red 1941 Willys coupe with a supercharged engine. If the asking price was $14,500 and you had to pay 4 3/4% sales tax, what would be the total price for this Willys coupe? Let's do the math. First of all, that's a fractional percent, 4 3/4%. Let's change that into a decimal. That will equal, first of all, 4.75%. By now you know 3/4 equals 0.75. And let's just change that into a decimal. Remember, move the decimal place 2 places over to the left. And so 4.75 would equal 0.0475. Now we just do the math. Multiply 14,500 times 0.0475. 5 times 0 is 0. Again, 0 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20, 22. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 again, 0. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3 is 31. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. 4 times 0 is 0, another 0. 4 times 5 is 20. Notice you always cross out those numbers on top so you don't get confused. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Let's add these numbers together. 0, 0, 5, 7, 8, 8, 6. Let's count the decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the tax you would have to pay on that Willie's Coupe at 4 3/4% interest rate, it would be $688.75. It requires work learning percentage problem solving. It's like joining a team or becoming good in sports. It takes lots of hard work and practice. Then after learning the basics, you can reap the benefits. As you look at these video scenes, think of all the practice these players went through in order to excel in what they are doing. They had lots of fun doing the things you saw in these videos. But before these sports persons could do the things they did, they had to spend lots of time practicing. It's the same with math. You must be willing to practice and learn. Then one day, you'll be able to earn good money and do exciting things with your math skills.
Please pause the video now and complete the problems in your workbook. When finished, press play, and we'll continue with the next lesson.